We are now live, so you're very, very welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. Today we're going to be talking about restarting our business during very challenging times with supports from your local authority, but also from the local enterprise office and Enterprise Ireland. So let's start today's programme.
Your local enterprise office, helping your business respond.
So you're very, very welcome. Today's guests, we have, all the way down in Waterford, we have Michael Walsh, who's the chair of the County and City Management Association, which I believe is the CCMA, and chief executive of Waterford City and County Council. We also have Oisín Geoghegan, who's the chair of the local enterprise offices. Oisín Geoghegan is also the head of enterprise at the local enterprise office in Fingal. I'm just going to add Michael there. So guys, you're very, very welcome. Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, good afternoon, Greg.
Brilliant. Great stuff. Great to see you. Now, let's start with the restart grant. So let me just start with the restart grant here. The restart grant was launched by the local authority. I believe it started accepting applications on May the 22nd, designed at helping small and micro businesses essentially reopen their business. Now I know that's a very simple definition there, Michael. But can you answer this question for me? What exactly is the restart grant?
Well, I suppose the restart grant is very simply, government would have asked us about 3 weeks ago to put together something very quickly to get money to businesses to facilitate them reopening. And we've done that. We've tried to make it as simple as possible, is the way I describe it. It's aligned to your 2019 rates bill. You can get that amount of money that you paid in 2019 by way of grant to a minimum of €2,000. The minimum grant is €2,000 and the maximum is €10,000. So it's reasonably straightforward, we hope. There are conditions, of course, as to who can apply, but it is generally for small to medium enterprises, and they're defined as less than 50 staff, that's whole-time employees, and less than 5 million turnover.
Super. You have some very, very super slides. So let's look at some of the conditions or some of the elements of the restart grant. So essentially, it's grants of €2,000 to €10,000 for small and micro businesses. Can you talk us through this in a little bit more detail there, Michael?
Yeah, no bother. The reality is that, look, this isn't intended to be oppressive in any context in terms of facilitating. So yeah, they're saying it's to help you open up your business, and it's for things like utilities, insurance, refurbishment, or maybe making adaptations, be that screens or anything else that you might need to do to do that. But equally, we're not asking that. Bottom line is you're going to get a check, or you're not even going to get a check, you're going to get an electronic fund transfer very quickly on this, and that's in the next couple of weeks. We'll be starting issuing checks, I would expect, next week, in fact, in terms of it. So if you bang on, I'll just give a quick run through them. Greg, stop me at any stage. These are some of the conditions. They're relatively straightforward. Like I say, less than 50 staff, whole-time equivalents, annual turnover less than 5 million. They're the conditions. That what describes the size of business. You have to be under those two. You have to be projected to make a loss of revenue of 25%. You must be saying you're going to reopen, and you must commit to retain employees that are currently benefiting from the temporary wage subsidy scheme. So they're all self-certification. There's bottom three there. Are we sending out sort of COVID police to find out if you're absolutely telling us the truth? No, but we are expecting there's a self-honesty and a trust basis here. We're expecting people to be honest. It can be checked after by the revenue, but it is simple. It is self-certification. You get it into us, and once you comply with those requirements, then we'll be issuing the grant to you. You've done something really queer with the application forms, the way I described it.
Really simple. The application form is really simple. We'll go through that in a little bit. But very simple question that someone asked me is, what is a commercially rateable business? Can you just explain, if it's applicable to commercially rateable businesses, what exactly is a commercially rateable business for anyone that doesn't know?
It's any business that operates from a premises in reality. So every single business in the country receives a rate bill from local authorities where they occupy a premises that is for the purposes of that business. So the exclusions here that wouldn't be a rateable premises would be if you had a self-employed person literally working out of a van or something like that. The key is you have to be operating from a bona fide business premises.
Okay, well, there's a question up here which feeds into that. Is it's 1 to 50 staff members, and do staff members need to be full-time or can they be part-time or casual staff?
It's being defined as whole-time equivalents.
Okay.
So if they're part-time, they need to be summed to make whole-time equivalents, if you know what I mean.
Okay, no, that makes sense. And then you say I'm a sole trader, so I am the business. Do I count as that one employee if I'm working out of an office?
You do.
Okay. So just again, questions if anyone's out there. So just so we know. So this is quite exciting stuff out there. Now, as regards, let's talk about the businesses. These businesses that are eligible. So there's a question here from a guy that says he's a gym. I'm sure he's not a gym. I'm sure he owns a gym, but he says, "I'm a gym. Will I be eligible?" ? So I take it a gym would be eligible if they fall into the category there. And the other question is, his phase for opening his business or her business may not be till the end of August. Can he apply for the Restart grant right now, or he or she, should I say? So if I'm looking at it, you can. So okay.
Yeah, the reality is he's eligible and he can apply for the grant right now. We're not, and we're certainly hoping not. If we get overwhelmed with applications, we may delay slightly the processing of the later phase ones, but that's not our intention at present. And just to give you a context, we've already probably the bones of 20,000 applications across the country, totaling about heading towards 100 million, I would say, in grants that will be being approved currently and hopefully ready for payment next week. So the exclusions are very, very limited, and they are what I would describe as multiple chain stores are excluded. You'll see on the slide there, Greg.
Yep.
What they are chain stores that are self-owned, not franchises. Franchisees can apply here, okay? But multiple chain stores, you can think of some retail outlets, for example. You can think of some betting shops and other things like that that wouldn't apply here. But I do want to emphasize that franchisees can apply. They're their own independent business, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then the other one is non-commercial organizations such as community and sporting premises. It has to be commercial. It has to be a business.
Okay. Brilliant stuff. Now there was another question, because I see businesses that don't operate from commercially rateable premises, like tradespeople and service providers. So another question that came in was, if I'm a small construction company and the vast majority of my staff work off-site, but I still have an office and a premises, can I apply?
You can apply is the short answer. Rateable premises is the definition.
Okay, superb. Now, just on the screen there for anyone that's watching here, there's a link there. It's bit.ly/COVID-19 Restart Grant. That link will take you to a page where you will find your local authority and you can look at applying for the Restart Grant. Just so you have it. We're talking about the businesses that are not eligible. Another question goes, I pay my rates via my landlord. So my business rates via my landlord. So obviously it's a guy that's a tenant. Can I apply? So if I'm paying my rates to my landlord, can I apply for the assistance?
You can, as long as you're occupying a rateable premises. In that situation, you are the only one that can apply. The landlord can't apply. So it has to be the occupier of the rateable premises.
Okay, so we can't double up. Okay, which makes sense. If I'm in arrears with my rent payments, can I apply?
Yeah, we wouldn't be very happy with you, but you still can, and we will still pay you.
Okay, so that's good. Someone says that they work in a shared office and they contribute to rates. How does that work, and could they apply?
I don't think they can apply in that instance. I think it has to be we'll call it the parent, for want of a better word, that applies. In other words, whoever is paying the bill in that instance should apply.
Yeah. Okay. So figure something out with the person.
Figure out something between you is the answer. Yeah.
So you're saying that the grant offers somewhere between €2,000 and €10,000, up to €10,000. How is that calculated? And how like being callous? How will I know how much money I could get?
You simply look at your rate bill for 2019. You can get up to that amount. If you pay more than €10,000, you'll only get €10,000. If you pay less than €2,000, you'll get €2,000, because there's a minimum and a maximum to being applied here of the 2,000 and the 10,000. But other than that, if you're in between those two sums, the reality is if you paid 4,500 in rates to your local authority in 2019. You'll get 4,500 by way of grant immediately.
Okay, fantastic. Now, I know this will hurt some people, and some people will be very disappointed when I bring this up. But I just want to clarify it and address it with you guys listening. Is, if you're not paying commercial rates and you're working from home, you're obviously not entitled for this this grant. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
So that's correct. And that's why today we're going to be looking at some additional supports that may interest you guys if you are working from home and you're a little upset that you don't, you don't fit into the category that this grant is intended to. Imelda Kelly, I just see her there. She's asking the question, and again, it may depend where she is physically working for. And the answer may be no, Imelda, is I have a cattery, with fair play, but I've never paid rates. Can I apply?
The answer, I'm afraid, is no, Greg.
Okay.
It depends on operating from a rateable premises.
That's okay. And the other
ironically, she possibly should be paying rates.
Okay, so maybe
that's another question.
Yeah. Okay. Geraldine's asking, just we'll look at some of these questions. If you're self-employed and presumably as sole trader with no employees, can you apply for the grant? And Geraldine says, I pay rates. Now, I would imagine the answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If you pay rates, if you're operating from commercial premises that pays rates, you can apply.
Okay. Okay, fantastic. And let's look here. There's Delilah. How are you doing now? Presumably you're inundated with applications. It's Delia. Sorry, I've just mispronounce your name. God, how awful. Delia says, I applied for this grant, but didn't get any email or letter if I'm eligible or my application was improved. Presumably you're going through a lot of applications and people can't.
Well, like I say, we're only open a week, Greg. The reality is that there's the bones of 20,000 applications already in. They're being improved and the approvals should start issuing, I would say, today onwards. And like I said, the intent is to start getting checks out next week. So you'll hear within days, literally.
Okay. Now, Denise asked an interesting question there. Denise Brady, hope you're well. She says, what if your rates in 2019 were less than 2K?
You can get 2K. Sorry, it's not an exclusion. Okay. If you paid €1,000 in rates, as long as you're satisfied that you'll be spending €2,000 in terms of the adaptations or other things that you're doing, you can get €2,000. The minimum payment is €2,000.
Okay. So that's good news. Good news potentially. There. No, that's fantastic stuff.
No, that is extremely good news because there are, if you want to keep this in context, there are like literally, I would say there are tens of thousands of people that would apply to across the country, Greg.
Okay. Yeah. No. So thank you so much for that question. Really, really valuable one. Mary says, I have a bed and breakfast and I pay water rates and I don't have any employees. No. So sadly, we're bearer of good and bad news, unfortunately. Unfortunately not, Mary. Maybe there's other supports we'll talk about later that you could look at. Okay.
It's specifically aligned to commercial rates. You have to pay commercial rates to your local authority, or otherwise you don't. Nobody that doesn't do that, or anybody that doesn't do that, doesn't apply.
Yeah, so I mean, even in the application form, it asks for your rates number and so on.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a rates number, essentially you can't fill out the form and obviously aren't eligible. Someone asked, do they need to pay the money back at all? So say I get this, I get the grant and I get €5,000. Do I get the money back?
No, you don't have to pay it back. It's a grant, and as long as you don't misinform us, let's be kind around using that word.
Of course. And what if my rates were not assessed in 2019? Or a similar question that someone asked: what if I set up my business early 2020? Is there a limit on the amount of time you need to be trading before?
No. Okay. No, what we will do is we'll make an assessment based on what your 2020 rates would be, or what we might expect your rates to be if you still haven't been rated. In other words, you mightn't have been valued as of yet, but once we know the type of premises, we'll align it with an equivalent premises nearby, if you know what I mean, and we'll give you that amount of money by way of grant. So we'll make an assessment as to what your rates would be likely to be, and you're eligible to apply. And if you just note that in the form, we will make an assessment relative to somebody of equivalent operational sort of standing in the community. So there is a mechanism for dealing with that issue.
Okay. So that answers Erica's question there. This is an interesting one. Is it taxable? So is this grant taxable?
Well, I suppose all income as part of your overall company profits or losses in the longer term is accountable, if you want to put it in those terms. It's only taxable if you make a profit, and I think we'd be very happy if companies did make profit, if you know what I mean, that of a scale that was taxable in the current year, given all the difficulties that they're facing. So it's income no more than any other income that would come into your business.
Okay. Now, Tony also has a very good question here. Tony McSweeney, hope you're well. so pre-COVID-19, he had 10 employees, but when he reopens in August, he's only looking to be able to bring back 4 employees. Can he still get the grant?
Well, he may not be intending to bring them back on the first day of August, but he might be intending to bring them back as soon as he can, is the way I describe it. So the expression is you must declare the intention to retain employees that are benefiting from the temporary wage subsidy scheme. That's the primary one. That's the 80% wage subsidy that the government is paying. Where that's being paid, they are seeking a commitment from people that they will bring back those people. There isn't an absolute date as to when they have to bring them back by, but just a commitment in principle that people are intending to bring them back. So you mightn't be intending to bring them back on the 1st of August or whatever the date referenced, but as long as it's your genuine intention to bring them back, in over a longer period, then I think that'll be fine.
Okay, great stuff. So it's showing intent. You alluded to this as regards payments coming out as soon as next week, but say I was applying today, how quickly would my application be approved, and how do I get the money?
We would have an objective of reaching on a 2-week turnaround regardless. The reason that in the current payments next week will be on the foot, obviously, of applications received last week. We're waiting on the transfer of money from government as a matter of interest to do that, but it's literally on the way, in the wings, out in the ether. And indeed, the payments from ourselves will be the same. It'll be done by electronic fund transfer. And that's why it's very important that you're very accurate in terms of the information you give us in the application form relating to your bank account numbers and otherwise. And equally, it's important to note that we're seeking a scan of a bank statement header there so that we can confirm that it is you, and it's as a security precaution there that we want to be able to align your bank statement header with your BIC and IBAN.
Okay. Fantastic. Now, what I might do, Mike, is I might go back. You had some very interesting, frequently asked questions. Let's just make sure we've covered all of those. So let me just pull up those frequently asked questions regarding the stream. So, how much will the grant be worth to my business? So it will be subject to what we paid in 2019, a minimum of 2,000 and a maximum of 10,000. We just discussed how soon we'll get the grant, so just making sure we've covered there. I think we've also mentioned if we haven't paid commercial rates or in arrears, that you can potentially still apply. A big one there, which people are asking, is the closing date for applications. So at the moment, just looking here, Michael, the closing date for applications is the 31st of August 2020. It would obviously seem pretty silly to wait that late to apply.
No, our very clear advice here would be to apply as soon as you at all can. If for no other reason, the August date is to reflect the fact that the 5 phases go out into August. There's no guarantee that won't change in the future, and I think a lot of businesses might be hoping that some of those dates might come forward. But we would be really advising people apply it as soon as you can at all. It's relatively simple. We'd stress that it is not complicated. So, we'd be advising please apply. It gives us better sight of the demand, and we're anxious to do it as soon and as quickly as we can, because we've a good number of staff committed to this. The sooner we get it done, the sooner we'll get back to doing some normal things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It'd be lovely to get back to a normality in some sense, but even just opening our business is uplifting and potentially getting back to some sort of normal, even if it is a new normal. Talking of the application form there, Michael, I know you say it's a simple process. Just in case anyone doesn't believe Michael there, let's not suggesting that would be the case. this at all. But let's have a quick look at this screen here. Now, this is obviously my local authority is Dublin City. So I'm in Dublin City's website there. As long as I've got a registered account, literally I will click in here. Click on the business restart grant application, and this is the form that we go to fill out. And we obviously need our customer account number, which would be presumably on our rate bill, and we would need our rate number. So those are two numbers that maybe you need to seek out and look for before you start filling out the process. You can see it's fairly straightforward. You've got your company or your business trading name, your company registered name, if that was different, your revenue registration number, the address of your business premises, your business category as regards what phase your business is going to reopen. Is it phase 0, already open? Was it phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5? You put in your name there, the position in your company, your phone number, your email address, your bank details. You have to submit a header for your bank. So taking a bank statement with your address on it and literally scan the top of your bank statement in, or provide that with your application. It says tax clearance access number, so a number to check that you're presumably tax compliant there. And then essentially it's like a little questionnaire that we have to fill out, but quite simple, nothing to trip us up here. So what our turnover in 2019 was, is there currently any business activity taking place for us, and talking about that. If the business is closed, what date it had to close. If the business is closed, what date are you intending to reopen? The estimated value of turnover loss. Now, the form looks for loss of income between the 1st of April up until the 30th of June 2020. So I know we haven't got to the 30th of June yet, but you obviously need to take an estimate of what you believe that turnover loss would be. So this is just to show you how simple the form is. When we get into the employment section, it says how many employees were in the business at the end of February, part-time and full-time, how many employees of the business were in receipt of the temporary wage subsidy scheme. And obviously we really want to see those guys coming off that scheme and getting back to work, and how many employees are in receipt of the pandemic unemployment payment, and so on. And you can see we've got to the end of the form. By submitting the form, I'm confirming that all details are correct and true, and we just click the submit button. So just because so many forms out there, Michael, are so incredibly complicated, you need a degree to fill them out, or I feel I do. That's a relatively straightforward form. So what I would be saying for anyone that's watching this is, please don't be put off by filling out a form. It's a fairly straightforward form to fill out.
I would be just saying, Greg, there's a couple of pointers there. Get your last rates bill. Once you have that in your hand, you have the information on your account and the number. The rest of the information, the average business will know off the top of their head. One other exception, we do need the scan of your bank statement, the header of your bank statement. Fold that and scan it. We don't want to see your financial details, transactions or anything. We want to see the header, that your name and address, your BIC and IBAN and that on it. That gives it's a security sort of to us. And after that, get your turnover figures right. But we're not looking for you to pull out your last year's accounts and have your income and expenditure absolutely the thing. We want to see your relative turnover. You know yourself what your sales were for last year, generally. Just put that down and make sure that once you're satisfied that you're gone down by 25% for the period, make sure that the two of those make sense. After that, the thing is relatively straightforward for us to press. You're self-declaring at the bottom. You're saying, I'm telling the truth here. We'll accept your word based on that. Consequences might come a year down the line if you're trying to cut us, but we're not asking that question at the moment.
Okay. I think there may be bad news for Catherine, but let's just answer a couple of questions that are in. So Catherine Wheel in Waterford, I've been notified that I will be assessed for doing a reflexology for a room in my house. I haven't been assessed yet. Can I apply?
No, I think it's good news. The reality is that Catherine is she is currently being assessed. Her evaluation is being completed for working from the home, and she will, in the end of the day, get the rates demand on foot of that. It won't be that big for working from home, and she'll be fortunate enough that she can still apply for a grant that will be €2,000 in reality.
Okay, in a world with so much bad news, that's great news. I'm delighted we shared Catherine's question. Fantastic stuff. Let's see what else we have. I appreciate your time, and I want to bring Oisín in there in a minute. So I think the answer is probably yes here. But Lorraine's asking, do you have to have a tax clearance cert?
Yes, but we're not actually asking for it, I don't think, in the application form.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, I'll answer that more correctly. You don't need it with this. A tax clearance set isn't required for any payment under €10,000. My apologies, I was confused in my head with our own payments. Normally, local authorities demand a tax clearance set, but in this instance, for a grant under €10,000, it's not required.
Okay, brilliant. So a question here, and I would imagine that you're struggling, but just to reiterate that we won't even try to pronounce any names there. Do we get a confirmation email once we've completed the form, or do we know?
No, you'll get it once you're approved.
Once you're approved. So just be patient. Make sure that you do it diligently and be patient. Okay.
Yeah, we'd emphasize, just take, for the sake of it, I think for the vast majority of people, if you had your bank account and you had your rates demand bill, I think this form is doable in a half an hour. Oh, yeah. Less than a quarter of an hour, maybe even, right? So what we'd be asking people is just take care of doing it, please. We are having to contact people for obvious omissions or errors, if you know what I mean, in the filling in the form. That's just costing us time and processing time. So we'd be saying, just take that bit of care, and it'll work very streamlined after that then from our point of view.
Okay, fantastic. Now we're blowing up the internet with all the questions here, so my apologies if we don't get through everyone's questions. We will respond in the comments box to any questions that we don't get to. So bear with us. Here's an easy one. So this is Michael. So Michael says, my company was closed and sadly still is. I've been told that I can apply for a reduction of rates for the time it was closed. I have one part-time employee and work there myself as director, mostly unpaid. It's a limited company business in the hospitality sector. We offer accommodation and the premises is raisable. 2 questions, please. Is the company eligible? Obviously, you don't have all the background details here, Michael.
I know I do. Yeah, I have sufficient.
Yeah, so he's asking, would his company be eligible, number one? So I'll ask you that question first.
Yes, he's operating from rateable premises. Yes is the answer, okay? Once he has to one part-time employee, I think that'll cover the one whole-time equivalent. What I would be saying is, remember it's self-certification, so he can put in his own time as the other part of that whole-time equivalent if necessary. The second piece is on rates generally, and it's a separate issue to the business restart scheme. Government have already announced a 2 to 3 month waiver of rates for businesses that were forced to close. and we're currently processing that. There will be a scheme announced in the next number of weeks as to how that will happen. You don't have to do anything at the moment, is the reality. Your local authority will be in communication with you, and you will get a rates waiver for the period for which you were closed.
Okay, fantastic. And this may be used for Lucy. I could be wrong here, but let's answer this one. So, Lucy O'Mahony, can I apply for the grant per retail outlet or per company, or how? So Lucy's saying she has 14 retail stores under 3 different registered companies. In total, presumably, she's employing 96 staff, and they're all limited companies. So I think we covered that before, where it was chains as a whole weren't eligible, but maybe you can just clarify that for me.
Yeah, I think she can apply, and she can apply per premises. What I would be saying to you is that the definition of chain is obviously relatively large, is the way I'd put it, but there'll have to be an individual decision made in her instance. She's nearly a chain, is the way I'd put it. If she has 14 retail stores, they may be under different brand names, of course. So look, the intent here is not to exclude other than those that with very large financial capacity, if you know what I mean. So there would be people. Another example I would have had would be somebody owning 3 or 4 restaurants, for example. Are they a chain? The answer is they're not. If they're nationwide, or to use the Shaw's comparison, if you're almost nationwide, you'll definitely be in trouble. But I think if you're not, I think you should be okay.
Okay. Fantastic. And Geraldine, she was on earlier on, so I think it just to reiterate, Geraldine, if you're listening, the answer was yes. So if you're paying rates from 2020, you're still entitled to certainly apply for the grant. Isn't that correct?
Yes, and the key is to include your rates number, and the local authority will know that, and they'll know that you're only there since 2020, and they'll make an assessment of what you would have been paying in 2019, and it won't be that dissimilar to your 2020 bill, in fact.
Okay, magnificent. Michael, thank you so much for demystifying the Restart grant for us. You've been a huge help. And just to remind everyone down below, that the link where you can find your local authority and find where your Restart grant application is down below there. It's bit.ly/COVID-19 Restart grant, just so you know. And what we will do is we'll post that link in the comments section. Michael, thank you so much for your wisdom. I know how busy you are. I want to bring in Oisín Geoghegan.
I'll leave you if I may, Greg. My apologies.
You can indeed, my friend. Thank you so much, and take care. So I'm going to bring in Oisín Geoghegan here from the chair of the local enterprise office. So if we got some bad news over the last 40 minutes, and that bad news was I wasn't eligible for the Restart grant, and I feel a little bit bad about that. Let's talk to Oisín about what other supports are available for your business, both soft supports and financial supports. Maybe, Oisín, if we start with say the local enterprise office first, and maybe we look at a couple from Enterprise Ireland in the end. But so what? Just looking here. So what kind of local enterprise office supports are available?
Good afternoon, Greg. Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll just give a kind of a bit of a flavour for everybody looking into this, because I suppose one thing everyone has in common who is looking into this is that you are more than likely a small business. You may be suffering some consequences, or very severe consequences in some cases, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And what I want to do is just to give you a bit of a flavour of the kinds of services that are available through the local enterprise offices. So if you want to flick on the slide there, Greg, I will talk through broadly, I mean, there, like you mentioned there are financial supports, and there are what we call soft supports, if you like, or non-financial support services available to businesses. Okay, so I'll talk through some of the areas in financial supports. Obviously, time doesn't lend itself to giving a lot of detail in this, and I'm sure people don't necessarily will want to hear all of the detail at this stage, but all of the detail of this is available on the website of your local enterprise office. Okay. The first thing to say, just in relation to the local enterprise office, it is very important that if you are running a small business in Ireland, that you are connected to your local enterprise office, because particularly now, more than ever before, you need to make sure that you're picking up the latest trends and the latest programs and activities that are available. So I mean, the territory is changing very, very quickly. There's a lot of new programs being made available to businesses. There's a lot of soft support services that are available to businesses now in response to the COVID pandemic. So I'll just talk first of all maybe about some of the funding options and funding programs. So you had in the previous slide there, if you just go back to that one, which is the Microfinance Ireland COVID-19 loan fund. Now this is open to businesses that are employing up to less than 10 staff, up to 9 full-time staff. You can apply for a loan of up to a maximum of €50,000. So if you're, for instance, if you're a business that is looking to recommence trading soon, or indeed if you can demonstrate that COVID-19 has impacted your business significantly, in other words, if your sales have dropped by 15% or more, then you can qualify potentially for a loan, and it's at a very attractive rate. So basically, the loan, without going into too much detail, is provided up to €50,000, depending on your own requirements. You can avail of a discounted rate of 4.5% interest if your application is processed and submitted and processed through the local enterprise office. So we work closely with Microfinance Ireland, and we process applications for them, and then it's ultimately MFI's decision in terms of approving them. But you can get the discounted interest rate if you apply through the Leo. So it's very much in your interest to apply through the Leo. We also, I think probably more importantly than the discounted rate, we help you with the loan application process. So, and we also have a stronger prospect of your application being approved. So because we obviously vet the applications in advance, we give you a steer as to how to put your best foot forward in that and how to make the application. For the first 6 months after you draw down, the COVID-19 loan is 0% interest, and there are no repayments due on it. Okay, so the repayments will only kick in 6 months after you draw it down. So it is very, very worthwhile. You do need to demonstrate that you're having difficulty securing funding from commercial lending providers, but it's a really useful source for working capital and for restocking. The other types of funding that are available through the local enterprise office, and these were available, if you like, pre-pandemic as well, obviously, grant assistance. Now, in terms of the qualification and eligibility for these grants, they are slightly, well, they are more geared at international trading services or businesses that have potential to develop into international trading services or manufacturing businesses. Okay, so their more stringent eligibility criteria apply to core grants from the local enterprise office. Okay, so they are available for businesses with up to 10 staff, as either manufacturing or international trading. Now, if your business is domestically trading, in other words, only trading within the Republic of Ireland, but if you can demonstrate you have real potential to expand beyond and trade off this island, then you could potentially qualify for business priming or business expansion grants. And there is also, and it's the first item, there's a feasibility study grant, and that is a very useful one. We're actually finding a lot of demand for that at the moment, because there's a lot of people in businesses and employees, indeed, in businesses, who are now thinking of setting up their own business and maybe have a business idea, maybe looking to see how can they tease this out and how can they determine if it's going to be viable or not. So we can provide funding in certain instances for businesses that are, or for individuals, if you like, who need to incur costs to examine the viability of their business proposition. But like I said, with these grants, it needs to be qualifying. That's the difference between the Microfinance Ireland loan. It's open to virtually all sectors, if you like, but the grant assistance is this grant assistance is specifically for international training or potentially international training businesses. So, like I said, all of the detail on this, I'm just doing a whistle stop tour, if you like. All of the detail is available on your local enterprise office website.
Yeah, we'll just put down below the website where we can find out more about this. It's just localenterprise.ie/response. You'll just see it ticking along in the background there. Other supports, and there's some questions coming in about some of these other supports, Oisín, as well. Big one is obviously the trading online voucher. Now, I know that you had an update for us on that.
Yeah, well, I suppose we've been running the trading online voucher scheme now for the past approximately 6 years. This has really taken off in the last 8 or 9 weeks since the COVID epidemic or pandemic kind of kicked in. In reality, a lot of businesses were no longer able to trade through traditional means, so the online option was the only option open to them. So what has happened is we've had an absolute explosion in the volume of applications coming in for trading online vouchers. Now, I think, look, at this, in my eyes, is very much a positive, because obviously in the future we have to be geared up. Our businesses have to be geared up to be ahead of the curve in relation to trading online. It's absolutely where everything is going, and we are in a position to help businesses to make that transition into e-commerce and to make sure that they're doing it in a good way. So the trading online vouchers grant scheme was revisited, if you like, within a matter of a week or two of the pandemic kicking in. And so, for example, I won't go into the detail, but it's a €2,500 grant. You only need to provide 10% match funding for it now. You do need to demonstrate you're moving your business online, or at least you're developing an e-commerce platform. In addition to that, you can now apply for a second voucher for the trading online voucher scheme. Now, I did mention there a moment ago that we've been absolutely inundated with applications for trading online vouchers. So the vast majority of LEOs currently are oversubscribed. So the funding provided through the Department of Communications, Climate Action and the Environment has now exceeded the capacity. The demand has now exceeded the capacity there. So we are awaiting just further clarification in relation to this. So what I would say to our businesses that are looking to apply for the trading online voucher, and I know there are a lot who have already applied and are waiting for a decision in relation to additional funding, just keep your ear close to the ground over the coming days, if you like, and we would be hopeful that we'll be in a position to reopen it. So,
Good news. Good news. I see Debbie had asked that question. Good news that certainly all is not lost. But touch wood, with a bit of luck, that scheme may open up again with a bit of luck. There's a couple of other funds that you referenced. There was a technical assistant for micro exporters grant and an agile innovation fund. Tell me about those.
Yeah, so again, very briefly, I suppose, the technical assistance for micro exporters, it's effectively kind of like a first-time exporters grant. It's a small contribution towards costs for a small business employing less than 10 or up to 10 staff. They can apply for up to €2,500 towards a cost that they're going to incur in exploring export markets for their product or service. So typically, this would have included, pre-pandemic, it would have included things like exhibiting at a trade show, whether that's in the UK or mainland Europe or further afield, or market research activities. So if you need to explore the market, or if you need to try a product in another market. So we can contribute towards the cost of this, and it's really there to help businesses to internationalize. So we're very, very interested, obviously, in talking to businesses, particularly that have potential and prospects for international expansion.
Okay.
The other scheme there is the Agile Innovation Fund, and this is an Enterprise Ireland scheme. Actually, you probably can't see the logo in the little box there beside the thing, but it's an Enterprise Ireland scheme. But the local enterprise offices are also processing and assessing applications for the scheme in conjunction with Enterprise Ireland. We work very closely with EI on a range of these initiatives. So this scheme is really for businesses that are going to be incurring significant investment in research and development or innovation in order to kind of maybe improve their product offering for new product offerings, examining further markets, and who need to invest in research and development and innovation in their business. So you can apply for up to 50%. The volume of funding in this is pretty substantial, so you can apply for 50%, maximum up to 300,000 cost. So you can be talking about up to 150 grand in some instances. Now, obviously, the majority wouldn't be quite that high, but you can apply for funding. It's a very significant fund, and the Leos have really started taking this on over the last 12 or 18 months. So we have a lot of really nice agile applications that have been approved over the last while.
Okay.
So that's a kind of a brief summary on the financial support side of the house, if you like.
There's a quick question there. Now, I think it depends grant to grant, but let's just, Declan was just saying, are these grants based on match funding? Now, I know you've gone through quite a few of them, but I suppose that the key is to go to localenterprise.ie/response. All the details of the grants that Oisín is talking about today are listed there, and whether and just how much match funding, if any, is available. Is there anything else to add there, Oisín?
Yeah, well, I think it's an important question, I suppose. So yeah, like in all instances, all funding provided by the local enterprise office through these grant schemes would require some match funding. Okay, in the case of the business priming, business expansion, and feasibility grants, that match funding must be at least 50%. Okay, in the case of the training online voucher mentioned there, the match funding in those instances are currently only 10%. For the training online voucher, but the same is 50% for the agile, it's 50% for the exporters grant as well. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So then you were starting talking about maybe some of the soft supports that the local enterprise office, the non-financial supports that you guys offer, Oisín. Tell me about some of them.
Yeah, and again, look at the landscape in this has changed radically, obviously, over the last number of weeks because of the fact that we obviously can't bring people together. We can't bring business owner managers together now to deliver training to them, to deliver networking events and all of these really important, valuable services. However, we have completely pivoted all of the services, and all 31 local enterprise offices around the country are now offering very vast suite of online programs, really geared principally at the owner managers of small and micro businesses. Okay, so there's a list of them there. Now there's a heck of a lot more than just this, if you like, available through the Leos. These are just the programs that are available, or some of the programs that are available throughout all 31 local enterprise offices. It is really important to be aware, and this is why connecting with your own local enterprise office is particularly important, because each Leo in the country, all of the 31 Leos, are also involved in local schemes in the provision of additional support services and programs that are developed locally and developed regionally. So all of those schemes can be, are on top of the list that you just showed there. But I might, if time allows, I might just go very quickly through that list, Greg.
Yeah, fantastic. I'll fire it up now.
Yeah, just very briefly. I mean, look, again, I won't go into the detail of this, but really importantly, and particularly in these more than ever before, getting good, solid business advice and one-to-one business mentoring is critically important. When the pandemic hit, all of the Leos temporarily abolished all of the charges, all of the fees for mentoring services. So we've made a lot of radical changes to the services offerings, and we're making them as accessible as we possibly can to businesses that need them. So business advice and business mentoring, they're available currently completely free of charge from your local enterprise office for small businesses throughout the country. Some of the core offerings that we're providing, they're listed there. Start Your Own Business program, we've moved that online. So these can vary anything from 4 weeks to 10 weeks, depending on the Leo that you're dealing with. But you can book these courses online. There's usually a small fee for doing a Start Your Own Business program, but they're very heavily subsidized. They are absolutely essential if you're looking to set up a business, you really have to do a Start Your Own Business program. You need to learn what the trends are. And in the market out there, because things have changed, obviously, they're changing all of the time. But you need to equip yourself with the necessary kind of understanding of setting up a business, the structure of it, the marketing, the finance, all of the different hats that you need to wear. And it gives you really solid grounding to do that. Management development, again, running a business successfully is a long-term thing. You need to develop your own management competencies, and we're very much focused on enabling businesses to do that. So again, these are all now currently running online throughout the country in the Leos, and there's webinars and there's workshops. The next one there is workshops, so you can do things like, and there's just a sample of the kinds of stuff that's available through the Leos there. 1 to 2 hour to 3 hour workshops, very, very many times. And things like opening your business safely post-lockdown, financial planning, how to restart a business. You'll find some Leos are offering things like a webinar on how to start a sector-specific business, or how to restart it, so things like hotels and so on. Digital marketing, there's massive demands for those types of programs as well as businesses are moving online. Other things, another sector one, the Digital School of Food, that was launched there recently by Minister Humphreys, and it is it's now rolled out through all of the Leos throughout the country. So if you're looking to set up a food production business, you can undertake an online program there. It's superb content in that, very good. There's about 20 hours of video content in there. Lean for business, running your business more efficiently, more effectively, more productively, extremely important. Always very important for businesses, but really now as well, particularly for businesses that are looking to reopen, who need to streamline what they're doing and need to look at things differently. That's another offering. And last but by no means least, business networking. Look at COVID-19 has been very isolating for business owner managers. It's been very isolating for everybody, I think. And the importance to stay connected with each other cannot be underestimated. So, business owner managers are good at networking, particularly Irish business owner managers. We offer many platforms to enable business networking to continue online. It's actually worked out really well. We're using lots of different mechanisms to network. I see there's a question there. The enterprise women.
More of a statement. Obviously, most of the local enterprise offices have fantastic female entrepreneurial or women networks, and that's Joanna giving a shout out to Fingal's Enterprising Women's Network, who I know do a great job on behalf of the local enterprise office. But you guys have hosted across the 31 Leos lots of even remote networking events, connecting small businesses together in these scary and lonely times. So thanks for the shout out there, Joanna.
Yeah, and it is, she's right to point that out, because there are different types of business networks that are out there. We would encourage anybody who's in business to make sure that you do kind of take time out to network and to meet like-minded individuals, to learn from each other and that type of thing, because it can be, particularly for running a small business. Many people are running small businesses from their homes or from a small office. It can be quite isolating at the best of times. So it is really important to stay connected, stay in touch, and learn and support from each other.
So brilliant. But I mean, if you haven't been all over localenterprise.ie/response, visit that website and see what supports your business may be entitled to. So I would strongly urge you guys to do that. Now, before we wrap up, Oisín, there was two supports that they're not local enterprise office supports, but worth mentioning today. But they're from Enterprise Ireland that might be relevant to some local enterprise office clients. The first one was a business financial planning grant. Talk us through that one very quickly. Now, just to point out, this is an Enterprise Ireland initiative, not a local enterprise office one.
Absolutely, and I mentioned earlier, we work really closely with Enterprise Ireland, very much hand in glove. Our funding is provided through Enterprise Ireland, and we work very effectively. So there are a lot of schemes that are continually being being put together by Enterprise Ireland, which we're very actively promoting as well for businesses that may qualify for them, because EI have huge amount of expertise, particularly focused on international trading services and manufacturing, and businesses that have potential to grow, and are normally businesses that are employing more than 10 staff. So one of the offerings, and there's a lot of there are many programs provided by EI, so definitely worth checking out Global Ambition, which is their website where you can find all the information on it. But just two other things very briefly. There is a financial planning grant that's available. It's worth up to €5,000. It enables companies to kind of access financial expertise. Okay, so we're finding now, and a lot of businesses obviously have been savaged by the pandemic, and they need to reevaluate, reassess where the business is at from the perspective of their financial position, because things have changed so rapidly and so strongly that a lot of businesses need to do a lot of work in this area. So what this scheme does, it enables you to gain access to really strong top-level financial expertise through vetted business consultants, financial consultants, and EI can provide a funding of up to €5,000 towards that service. Okay, it is restricted to businesses that are employing more than 10, that are internationally trading or manufacturing. But if you fit that bill, definitely worth looking at that, because it's an absolute no-brainer for businesses that have been impacted by COVID.
Absolutely fantastic. So the key there is the link below. Before we wrap up, I'm going to give you a link where you can check out all Enterprise Ireland supports. So just so you can read and make sure that before you start to apply for the grant, that it's a grant that you're eligible for. So the second grant, just before we wrap up there, Oisín, then was it's called a Sustaining Enterprise Fund, also an Enterprise Ireland initiative. What's that all about?
That's right. So this is really to assist businesses with short-term capital injection. Okay, so depending on the turnover of your business, I think it's up to, if your turnover is up to €1.5 million, you can apply for €25,000. If your business is over €1.5 million, less than €5 million, you can apply for €50,000. So again, it is geared at businesses that are impacted by COVID, that are particularly focused on ones that need to restart, or indeed maybe have been trading at a fairly low level for the last while and are now kind of hopefully ramping up and need to restock and need to reemploy and kind of expand. So all of these things, when a business is looking, when you're in that situation, when you're looking to ramp up your production, your employees and your stock and your raw materials and so on, there is obviously significant financial knock-on impact to that. So that's what this fund is particularly for, and it's at a very, very attractive rate there as well. So the idea is that there's an admin fee that will be repayable, but other than that, it's a very useful intervention. It can be provided up front as well. So yeah, it's worth checking that out again if you're employing more than 10 staff in your small business.
Brilliant. Well, all I've really got left to say is a huge thank you, Oisín, and obviously to Michael earlier for an amazing lunch and learn. I want to leave you guys with 4 useful links. So if you're a business and looking for more information, supports, let's leave you with 4 links to check out that you can investigate to see what supports are available for your business. So the first one there we mentioned before was the local enterprise office supports. That's localenterprise.ie/response, which has been ticking below the screen since Oisín has started to talk. The local authority restart grant, how to find your local authority and to apply for it wherever you are in Ireland. bit.ly/COVID-19 restart grants. It is case sensitive, that link, just to be aware. And we were talking about the Enterprise Ireland supports there a moment ago. So a really good way to check out the grants that Oisín has just referenced, and maybe additional grants that we haven't referenced that may be applicable to your business. Check out globalambition.ie/COVID-19. Presumably we'll stick these in the comments so you guys have it. And then the last link, which is worth checking out if looking for supports, is from the Department of Business, Enterprise and Innovation. And the link there is dbei.gov.ie/coronavirus. God, I'm sick of the coronavirus. I don't know about you guys, but check out those useful links. So from me, Greg Fry, and from Oisín, and from Michael, thank you so much for joining us today on the Lunch and Learn, and thank you so much for all your engagement. So we'll see you next week at 1 o'clock. Take care and bye-bye. Thank you, Oisín.
Your local enterprise office, helping your business respond.